Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Global Adventure Show with travel writer Debbie Stone. So excited today because Fire Monkey, I almost said Travel Monkey again, right? This is what happens when Debbie Stone, the travel writer, has just come back from Japan, and we do call her the Fire Monkey, and she got that name from a man in Bhutan. And who was that man, Debbie, that gave you the name?
He was a monk. He was a monk.
He was an actual monk. I didn't want to give the wrong thing. But, you know, Fire Monkey has stuck over the years. And then somehow, because of her Twitter handle, Travel Debbie, I go, hey, it's Travel Monkey. But we call her Fire Monkey because she's got like this amazing energy to go around the world, which is really true. You've heard her on the shows over the years. She goes everywhere from Iceland to Japan, like today, across the country, national parks, you name it. And we're all excited to hear about her adventures. She went off the beaten path with Oku Japan. We're going to find out about Oku Japan and even see if I was pronouncing that correctly. If so, go to okujapan.com, okujapan.com, and see her article about it all on blendradioandtv.com. So, and that is listed and linked in the show notes. But how are you doing, Debbie? It's so weird to call you Debbie, FM.
Since you have a variety of names, I'll answer to any of them. So
I know. It's amazing.
Doing fine. Just really thrilled to have been able to visit Japan again. I have a kind of a long history with the country, only because umpteen years ago I went there to teach English as a second language and taught there for a year in a place called Shizuoka, and then came back several years later to take a group from a company called Experiment with International Living, a group of American teens over to Japan for an immersion, homestay immersion and traveling adventure. But it had been many, many years, several decades, in fact, since I'd been back. And so it was really exciting for me to return to a place that I have such wonderful memories of.
You know, it seems to me from looking at the photos and then reading your article that this is a place that holds personal balance as like a life force. Like personal balance equates to world balance in a way, right? If we keep our balance, maybe everything else will keep balance too. And also a place that preserves its history and has incredible integrity. Use that word in your article quite a bit. Integrity, this authenticity to keep who they are as a people, as a culture, the history, the nature is part of it, is a big part of it. And I really was amazed at your experience. So Oku Japan is really like a travel company that is all about those kinds of experiences where you have interaction with the people that you meet, whether you're learning about the farming or about the arts. You have interaction. It's immersive, just like what you did, taking students over. You got to be the person immersing at this point.
Correct. Actually, I think for people to understand, the word oku really kind of summarizes it. It's a concept that the Japanese have that is, according to them, akin to penetrating the layers of an onion, meaning, you know, trying to reach more depth, more to the inner core. And so in that respect, they've created tours or trips that, you know, try to not only, to go beyond scratching the surface when it comes to culture, when it comes to dealing with communities and especially rural communities and preserving those traditions. And so one of their tenets is to act responsibly, as you mentioned, which is, you know, to bring people to these communities, which will assist them economically. It also helps their society. It helps their culture to endure. And so that probably summarizes really what their aim is and what their trips try to do. The tour that I took is called In the Shadow of Mountains, which means that you're going to travel to a section of Japan. It's on the west of Honshu, which is the main island, and it's basically between these towns and villages between on the Sea of Japan and the Seto Island sea regions. So you're in one specific area. It started in Kyoto and ends in Osaka. But I chose this because having been to Japan before, having lived there, I'd spent much time visiting many places that were definitely, very popular and places that, tourists go. And of course, if you're a first-time traveler, you want to go to certain places that are, renowned and you've heard of. And but this is, this tour attracts people that have been to the country before, or it attracts people, even first-time visitors, that are looking for something a little different.
I think this is amazing, that you're doing this. And so this is just in an area that's not normally visited, right, for folks. And you got to go to the country's first national park. Can I just give a shout out to that? Because I think this is pretty amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, to get around, you're not simply on some, coach that just drives you everywhere, and it's a, dedicated vehicle for your group. Our group was 12 of individuals basically from Australia, Canada, and the U.S. And half of us had basically been to Japan before, and the other half were first-time visitors. But you're going to travel, and it's important for people to understand that Oku wants to introduce people to the public transportation. And so that means you're going to be taking the trains, the buses, the trams, the subways, even boats to go from one place to another. So I say in my story to think of the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and you probably get the drift. So, you will be moving along with the public, with the people, what they do. And trains are such a big part of Japan. They're excellent there because there's all different kinds, and they're convenient, and they run on time, and so you can depend on them, and so that makes it all, the experience is enriched by that. You also will be walking a lot. People need to understand if they do a tour like this, you're going to be walking, of course, which people understand, but you're going to be walking sometimes on uneven, rough surfaces, sometimes up and down stairs when you see shrines and temples, and so you have to definitely be at least not uber fit, but you at least have to be somebody who is accustomed to walking.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to bring up. And, because, the shrines, there's always stairs to the shrines, right? They want to make you to work to get up there. Yeah, that's all part. I think they were built that way for that reason, right? But also when you talk about, all these different modes of transportation, that's kind of eye-opening if you're not from like New York City, right? So for people that are not from those kinds of, like, we're not used to the subway, or we're not used to London, or, this is kind of an eye-opening experience, but it's something that kind of we could learn from a bit, right? I have a friend who just came back from Japan. He is a touring musician, and somebody was like, you got to bring the blues to Japan. And so many creative artists that I know there's even a song, Big in Japan, that go to Japan because of the creative elements. And he was just mesmerized about the culture, the friendliness. Like he's still posting on his Instagram nonstop. And then he was like, the trains and the people being so cool, the trains. He was all over Japan on trains. And there was even a sushi, I think like a sushi vending machine from what I saw. I couldn't quite make out what he was posting, but you could get sushi in a way that we wouldn't expect in this country. And he just said the people were the most, he fell in love with Japan.
Yeah, it's just easy to do because, like you mentioned, the people they're extremely polite and courteous. They're helpful. It's a clean country, with a lot less crime than other countries. You feel very safe. walking
Wow.
around even at night. And, it's, and I do think, public transportation, you get to see the way people live, I think, which is a wonderful, eye opener for many people. And, these trains, especially the bullet trains, which are called Shinkansen, and these are these incredibly fast, trains, and they just zip you to places. And then you've got all these, local trains, and then semi-express, and then limited express, and then all these different trains that can take you everywhere you want to go, and then buses too, and all sorts of, so you can, piece everything together. It's nice when you do a tour like this because somebody has pieced it together for you, so that you don't have to do all the work, the efforts involved in trying to piece it together. But it's a wonderful eye opener. It also then gives you confidence because if you stay later, which we did, we stayed a number of days after the tour, then, you feel very comfortable taking that public transportation and you're not afraid of it.
Yeah, this is amazing. Yeah, because I think people get this fear. There's a fear.
Yeah,
Most people do. It's like it's more convenient. It's better for the environment,
right.
and who knows who you can meet on the road, or the rail, I should
Absolutely.
say.
Absolutely. And I want
Yeah.
to tell people that if these places are the train stations can be busy and, especially some of these main hubs and things. And, people are, moving around quite quickly and everyone seems to know where they're going, but there's always somewhere and somebody that you can ask for help. And so you should never feel like you're, completely lost or that you're not sure where you're going, which track, how to get there and all that kind of stuff. So, I really want to let people know that that don't be afraid of it. You do it, and then once you do it, you'll start to feel a lot more comfortable doing more of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no. So that's the thing. Do you find that as you travel to different places, like you've been to Japan a couple times, but like more immersive, right? So
Yeah.
did you feel like this is kind of an old shoe that I'm slipping into, but new? But for people that have never been to Japan, would you recommend this company to go with?
Of course, absolutely. I think that they have a variety of tours. If people like a certain amount of activity, they also have actually walking tours where you can walk the famous Nakasenda Way, for example, or other well-known pathways or routes that you can walk. But they do like activity, and they do like to try and give you more than, like I said, a surface glimpse of culture, but to go beneath there and try to interact with the people, interact with the traditions and the crafts and music and art and all that, and of course food.
So the food, apparently, I think the food is your style of food because I know you love fish. You're a pescatarian. So the food was a big deal here. This was good food,
Of course.
right? Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's. I mean, you have to. If you like Japanese food, you're. Definitely. Being in the country that actually makes it and creates it, that makes a big difference than having Japanese food, say in the U.S., which there's plenty of wonderful Japanese restaurants, but to be eating it there, there's a whole cultural emphasis there on how you know eat, what you eat with, what are the different dishes, and there's all these different small little dishes that are accompanied by like the fish and the soup and all those kinds of things. So, sometimes you look at it and you're like a little overwhelmed, like, what is everything? There's like 10 different dishes in front of me. I don't know what these things are. But, if you're curious and you're game to try, go for it. There's some things that you'll love and some things that you won't like, but that's okay. It's all part of the experience.
Oh, and you had sake tastings too. That, you
Of
know.
course, absolutely, and I think that's something that many visitors like to do. To get into that whole thing and visiting a sake brewery. Visiting and having a tasting, hearing about how the sake is made, and all that, and learning that there are yes, there's a whole different range of sake, and you can have it hot, and you can have it cold, and so that's something that's really, I think, fun for visitors to do. So Oku does try to incorporate interesting experiences, not only through food and beverages, but through like I said, the arts, for example, we had a performance of taiko drumming, which was always, I've seen it many times, but it was very exciting. And then we went to this wonderful town, a hot spring town. It was called Yunatsu Onsen. Onsen means basically a hot spring. And we had a private evening show that was incredible. It blew me away. It was it was called the Iwami Kagura Show, and it took place in a Shinto shrine, in the evening. And these dancers, these were local dancers, and they had musicians, and they basically reenacted these two stories, and they had the most elaborate, wonderful costumes, and a young boy played one of the main roles, and it was just so dramatic and so captivating. And afterwards, we got to talk to the performers and the musicians, and up close and personal, because we were the only ones there. And so it was a wonderful special type of experience that a lot of visitors, if they just go on their own, would probably never have.
I love that. I mean, because of the music, and to me that's part of it, because I think the arts always tell you the atmosphere, the feeling of the people. I think that's
Yes.
one of the close ways to get to understand. But taiko drumming to me is like a huge deal that you got to experience. And so you've got the arts. That's awesome. Dancers, you had all of that, and I'll get to the accommodations in a bit. But I do want to get to some of the places that you did experience. Obviously, you got around in different ways, which is really cool. But I wanted to touch on, of course, Seto Island Sea National Park. Did I even pronounce it? Is it Seto or Seto? To get that right.
It's the Seto Inland Sea National Park, which you had mentioned was the country's first national park. And so you can climb to the top of this wonderful hill and get this incredible view of the Seto Island Sea. And there's this amazing expansive bridge system that actually serves cars and trains on different levels of the bridge, and it connects the main island of Honshu to Shikoku, another island. And this bridge is really a masterpiece. So you climb up to the top and get this wonderful viewpoint there, and you can walk around the hillside, and that was another one of those things that I don't think a lot of visitors do. I had never been there before and hadn't even really heard of this national park. So something that was new for me, which turned out to be incredibly beautiful and interesting. And then you go to an interesting silver mine in another town. It's Omoricho, and it's the Iwami Ginzan silver mine, which is a World Heritage Site and largest silver mine in the history of the country. And so we got a tour of that. And we things like that you probably wouldn't do as a visitor. The only people that we saw walking around were Japanese people walking around, either locals or else, people from different parts of Japan who were on a vacation. And so you can learn about, this silver mining, the whole mining techniques, all about a miner's life. And, so I mean, things like that you would never really get, even think to see or even think to know that it's there,
No, I think this is amazing because, the other thing you got to see was, please everyone forgive me if I don't pronounce these names correctly because I've never been to Japan, but Kurashiki Bikan Historical Area?
Yes, it's the Kurashiki Bikan Historical Area. You pronounced it correctly, which is this beautiful canal area. It was a really important rice distribution hub, and so Kurashiki means a town of storehouses. So you'll see a lot of these former rice storehouses, and they've been converted into museums and shops and cafes. And the waterways are beautiful, and it's charming, it's picturesque, it's everything you can think of. Plus, also it is a denim area. There is a place called Denim Street, so it is where Japan's first line of jeans was made. And so you can walk around there and see all this like designer denim stuff that they're now creating. But it was a beautiful place. And So, different spots that a lot of people don't know about, I think, is what Oku likes to introduce to visitors.
This is amazing to me when you think about all these different experiences that you get to have. You're going to national park, historical areas, mining districts. I never thought of about going to a mining district in Japan,
No,
honestly. That was
no,
not even
absolutely.
on my thought pattern until you brought it up. And I was like, well, why not? Why not? But then
Right.
you've also got all of these Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines, right,
Yes.
that you went to as well that you touched on at the beginning, but that's got to be a highlight.
There are so many of them. A lot of people, when they go to Japan, they say that they were on shrine and temple overload, but because there are just countless numbers of them throughout the country. Some are extremely well known, and others are very hidden in mountains and forests, and you'll never know about them unless you stumble upon them or somebody takes you there. We did go to one that is fairly well known, but it is on like I said, the western side of Japan, outside of Hiroshima, which everybody knows about. But it's called Miyajima, and it's famous because it's an island, and on this island is are these Buddhist temples. There is this 5-storied pagoda, and then there is the floating gate. And so it is stuck out there in the water, and depending on the tide, you could possibly go up close and touch it, or you can just view it from the land and see it from there, or from the ferry when you go over. You take a boat from Hiroshima to Miyajima and you go over there, and it is a very special place. People like to get married there, so we did see some some couples there who were getting photographed there, and it was a fascinating place to walk around, and that's probably, I would say, the most crowded place that we were at, just because it is such a well-known place, and there's like a billion photos of it out there, and everybody wants to take photos. But it was definitely worth going to, especially if people have never been there, because it is unusual in the fact that it's in the water. And another place that are famous in Japan are these castles, which are all over the place. We went to one that was in ruins, which is unusual. Usually you go to a castle to see a castle, but the one that we went to with the Suwano Castle was in ruins, and it's on the top of this mountain, and you have to take a little chairlift, and then you get off, and then you hike up to the top, and you could see the ruins, pieces of the castle, not like they're just on the ground, basically. And it dates way back to the 13th century, but it is one of Japan's top 100 castles, because it's so rare, that it had original stone walls and all these outposts, and it has all these architectural characteristics from different periods. So you can get up to the top, and then you have this incredible view. And I said in my story that I imagined what life was like for a castle lord, surveying and protecting his village below. So that was a very cool experience. Really enjoyed that.
Well, yeah, so you've got castles, you've got Buddhist shrines, you've got different, not just Buddhist shrines to visit, temples, and national parks, mines, shrines and mines, right? All of these historic sites. I mean, you've got all these different ways to explore. Is water kind of a prevalent thing in Japan?
Well, it's an island. Yeah, it's an island nation. So, it's islands and water all over the place. So yeah, if you're on the coastal areas, yeah, you're going to see water, and so it is. And also, mountains. People don't understand, Japan is very mountainous. It's definitely a big ski area, and in the northern part, especially in the northern island, like Hokkaido, which is the northernmost island. They have like a big snow festival in the winter, and they do ice sculptures and everything. So people think, oh, Japan, it's hot, it's in Asia or whatever. No, yeah, it can be hot, but yeah, it does get seasons, and it does get snow in different places. So yeah, so I think sometimes people have preconceived notions of places, and then they get there and realize that, those notions kind of went out the go out the window, so to speak. I think another thing that Oku does very well is that they incorporate experiences where you can actually do some of the crafts. So one day we made our own pottery in a place called Hagi, which is a very, very well-known preserved castle town, but often people don't get there. It's on the Sea of Japan. It's has a lot of World Heritage sites, but it's famous for a type of pottery, hagiyaki, or hagiware as they call it, and it's hundreds of years old and very highly valued. And so we got to go to a hagi studio, and each member of the group got to sit at a pottery wheel, and we had an instructor next to us, and we made a piece of hagiware. So it was pretty wonderful to be able to do that, because years ago I had taken some class where I was trying to make pottery using the wheel, and it was really frustrating, and I felt like it was just useless. I couldn't get anything done. I felt like I just was, oh my God, I can't do this. And then, this instructor was so patient and, working with me and showing me where to put my hands and all this stuff. And it was really a delightful experience. And I felt like this is a wonderful souvenir that you created, and, that you've actually made and touched and created.
Yeah, that is more than anything else. Like, you can buy souvenirs, which we all encourage to do, because it shares the tourism, the travels, the experience with friends and family, and support small business. But there's something when you can get to do it yourself, and
Absolutely.
you're part of that cultural history. I want to talk about the lodgings, because I find this
of course
is going to be a huge part of how people go there and what's different. It's different because even how you bathe is different. And that to me, yeah. So some people go, like, little eyebrows will go up, but at the same time, once you do it, you may be going, ooh, so tell us a little bit about the different kinds of properties and then how that works.
So, Oku also likes to utilize traditional accommodations when possible. And on this trip, we stayed in a variety of places. We stayed in a place called a ryokan, which is basically a traditional Japanese-style inn, and also a minshuku, which is basically a Japanese-style B&B. We also stayed in more modern kind of Western style, or a blend of a style hotel. But the ryokans are really quite interesting. They have tatami rooms, which is made of the tatami floors, and they have the futon beds, and we all know what futon beds, but if you don't, they're basically they pull out mats and quilts, and you sleep on those. And then they have Japanese style baths and local cuisine. So some of them are small, very family-run places, and some are larger, almost hotel-like, with many, many types of rooms. The bathing experience, I think, is very interesting for people who are not familiar with it. I've never been to Japan, but it's very classic. It's a beloved ritual, and there is a protocol, though, which we were instructed. I knew about this before, but for others who don't know, it's always nice to hear what you're supposed to do. And so the bathtubs that you are for soaking, they're not for washing. So when you go to public hot springs or in larger ryokans, there's these communal spa-style baths, and they're segregated by gender. And so you sit down in the bathing area, and you use the buckets of soap and shampoo, and you use the washcloth you've been given, and you clean yourself, and then you completely rinse yourself off before you enter into the soaking pool. And then you get out, dry yourself off. And so that's basically to understand. In other places, very small places, you will have bathing tubs that are used privately in turn by each guest. So you can either reserve a time or just check to see if it's available. So you can go in there by yourself, use the tub, understand that you are supposed to rinse off and clean yourself before entering, because this bathwater is not changed for each bather.
Wow. So this is completely, yeah. You got to get
it's a different experience, and you have to follow the protocol. It's very important. And you'll also get accustomed to the clothing. Wear something called a yukata, which is basically like a robe, a cotton robe, and you can wear it to the baths, you can wear it to dinner at these, ryokans, and you can even wear it to bed. And you can also, in hot spring towns, you can see people walking around in yukatas when they go from their place where they're staying to the public hot spring and back. So,
Wow.
there's a certain way to
Little
wear it.
freedom. It's a little
Yep,
freedom to me. Sounds like,
it is. It
like
is.
you don't have to cut all lottie dot up. Like, but it seems like in the lodgings too, are you able to eat at your lodgings
Yes,
themselves
well,
or
the
no?
ryokans, yeah, the ryokans definitely. We had breakfast and dinner at the ryokans, and they're served, as I mentioned, kaiseki style, which is this multi-course affair with lots of little dishes. You'll get sashimi or sliced raw fish. You'll get, oftentimes grilled meat or grilled, tofu fish. You'll get salad, rice, miso soup. You'll get these special Japanese pickles.
Hmm.
And, so in breakfast, you get also numerous dishes, always accompanied by, rice. And the dishes are extensive. And so that's a whole new, basically vocabulary for people who go there. You'll learn quickly, and you'll find, like I said, you'll find out what you really love and what perhaps you don't like, but don't be afraid to try any of it.
Ah, that's amazing. So it seems like this, Japan's a country, but it's an island, and it seems to be bigger than what we may perceive it, and happier
Well,
than what we perceive
it's
too.
it's basically a country, but it's made up of several islands, and the main island, as I said, is Honshu, and then there's several other,
Yeah,
Shikoku and
but it's
Kyushu and
bigger.
Hokkaido. So it's not a big country. Has a finite land mass only because it is composed of islands. So the population is large, and they're all put onto these islands. Of course, Honshu, the main island, is the most populated, with cities like Tokyo and Hiroshima and
Hmm.
Kyoto and places like that. Other islands are, more rural and lesser populated. I enjoyed, of course, being in these small towns, these villages where, people from different countries were not so, you didn't see them. You may be
Right.
the only tourist group that was walking through this little town, and I love that. I think
Yeah.
that's such
And
a wonderful way.
I was going to say, I just love the fact that you're not on such a huge tour, you know,
Right.
how it's
Always,
like,
their groups are
it's
always
so,
small. Yes, yes.
yeah, that to me, because it just makes it an intimate experience. So you're not overwhelming these small communities either. I mean, because I think if we just look at Japan going, here's this island, and we forget the little islands, like I was saying, I'm like, and then it just feels like, oh, it's so little, but then it's not because of all the experiences that you're having and the different places you can go. But these tiny communities, when we look at tourism and our footprint as travelers, I think these kinds of tailored experiences where you're able to actually be very local and immersive, be on public transport, and then go into these communities that you probably won't get to if you were just going, into the main cities. I think that's really special. And I hope more tour companies go that way. I think it's part of
I think
what we need to do.
it's to me, I much more prefer a very small intimate group. I also don't like to be on large coaches and looking out my window and passing by sites. I want to be in these communities. I want to be walking around. I want to be meeting the people. I want to see what they're doing. I want to touch and feel and have a really, complete in-depth type of experience. And I think, if that's something that people like, then, this type of tour company, wherever you go in the world, looking for those types of companies that offer those types of experiences.
Mm, I like it. I like it. Man, was it good to get back when you got off the plane? Did you feel like, yay, I'm glad to be back in Japan?
I felt really happy to be there. I really did. I felt, it's being surrounded by the people and the language again. I mean, I had learned to speak somewhat when I was there umpteen years ago, and so it came back to me. Some of the words, I could understand. Of course, not everything, and of course they spoke, quickly for me. But I could, I just felt like, oh my gosh, I remember this, and I remember how wonderful this was.
Wow. Wow. It's amazing. So I know you've done a bunch of more travel back east and all kinds of places, right? So next month, everybody stay tuned. We're going to find out where Debbie, the fire monkey, has been. Sometime also known as the travel monkey. You got 3 names. Who has 3 names? I love this. I love this about you. But her name is Debbie Stone, everybody. That is her name. And keep up with her on our websites, blendradioandtv.com and also nationalparktraveling.com. I'm amazed of your year of travel. Absolutely amazed this year. I mean, you have been all through Alaska. I mean, do you ever sit back and kind of pinch yourself at everywhere you've been? Because it's been pretty.
When I have a moment,
was Samoa last
when
year?
I have a
this
moment,
year? Like what?
Samoa and
was Samoa
Argentina
this year too? What? Yeah, it
Samoa,
was.
Argentina, Chile. Yeah,
Oh my
I know.
gosh.
Alaska, Hawaii, all those places.
And I remember during the pandemic,
busy
you're like,
year.
hell no, I'm going to do my national park list now.
Right.
You really just don't stop. And that is why she does have the moniker Fire Monkey. But everyone, Debbie Stone, she really does a bunch of travel and it's amazing. We love watching where she goes, listening to her stories, reading her stories. I know you all do too, but check it out. The story for Japan and her adventures with Oku Japan. Go to okujapan.com. By the way, everything is linked in our episode notes, so check that out, and it'll be up on blendradioandtv.com. Just type in Oku Japan and you'll find it. So we're looking forward to next month. I think we're going back east, right? We're going to America this time, basically.
I think we are, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Debbie, you take care, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Safe and happy travels. Thanks for listening to Big Blend Radio's Global Adventures Show with travel writer Debbie Stone. Debbie is here every 4th Tuesday. You can keep up with us at bigblendradio.com.